Update 7.7 brings us 7 new refines to talk about before we dive into our second summer banner. In this video, we'll talk about 4 of these 7 units, those being Kempf, Ross, Perceval, and Gerik. Next video, we'll go over dual Springy Dune and Fae, Legendary Crom, and Mythic Bramimon. Crom and Brammy got remixed kits as well. Links to that video when it's completed. First up, Kempf is celebrating 4th of July with a refine for his Venin Edge. He's a Sword Cavalier and a Heroic Grail unit. Venin Edge is a 16 might sword that grants plus 3 defense. At start of combat, if Kempf has more than 25% HP, he gets plus 4 to all stats during combat. After combat, if Kempf attacked, he deals 10 damage to target and foes within 2 spaces and inflicts the flash status on those same enemies. Flash is just the shorthand for the cannot counterattack status. Like before, this weapon plays around debuffs after combat. To make it through the first fight, you got extra stats. For the refine, if number of allies adjacent to Kempf is 1 or less, then he gets another plus 4 to all stats, 30% damage reduction for 1 hit, and after combat, if he attacked, then inflict the new Discord status on foes within 2 spaces. Discord just got introduced with Dual Shamir, and as a reminder, it's a negative status that inflicts in-combat debuffs on the foe. It applies -2 to each stat, and that increases by 1 for every enemy within 2 spaces of the target. 3 nearby foes hits the max -5 to all stats. Generally speaking, Kempf got more survivability tools and another debuff to inflict, plus 8 to all stats, 30% DR, not exactly enough to become threatening, especially since Kempf's stat spread is balanced throughout. Kempf wants to initiate first, apply his debuffs and 10 splash damage, then just let the rest of the team follow up to finish the job. Similar to Legendary Sigurd, Kempf can go out in a blaze of glory if you want, as long as he lands a hit. Flash, Discord, and the splash damage will apply. This is fine for defense teams, although technically you can get away with it on offense 8 raids too. For other game modes, preferably Kempf doesn't want to get killed. Now in terms of playstyle, there are some options. First, you can build like a general offensive cavalier, flow skills to double tanks, stack attack and speed, and if you got it, the new alarm skills can give Kanto along with some buffs. Flow guard would be nice to avoid special counters, and Kempf has some damage reduction now. You could stack DR with Brash Assault 4. It also puts pressure on the enemy to stop a double because if they hit Kempf hard and he survives, his counter is now empowered. For A skills, Clash is great to ignore debuffs. Surge Barrel would be nice to heal back up, but cooldown reduction is an issue. Regarding debuffs, if you want to stack more debuff focused skills, Kempf needs to survive combat. Venin Edge's effects go through if Kempf dies, but this does not apply to, I believe, any other passive skills. Things like Fatal Smoke, Savage Blow, Poison Strike, or Panic Smoke do not proc if Kempf goes down. If you just want to initiate and use extra debuffs, then focus on surviving. Wind or Water Sweep are fine into slower units, but you can also try to rely on Venin Edge's new damage reduction. Something like Guard 4 also has DR, and a Follow-Up Denial would be good too. A bit of a niche skill, but Defense and Res Catch 4 is on an Ephemeral unit this month, and Kempf can run that instead of Forge's Defense and Res. There are also Menace C skills, although alarms are good too. I'll throw in a mention for Defense and Res Smoke 3 as well. Field debuffs to stack with Discord, and Pathfinder to open a way for this team. Worth noting that mixed phase builds can be nice just to survive enemy phase. If Kempf at least gets the fight back, he will inflict Venin Edge's effects that could make even something like a distant counter kinda annoying if the enemy doesn't escape your team's range. Now, being annoying is kinda Kempf's whole deal. I wouldn't say he's the best general unit if you want a killer, but he could still be pretty fun as an AI unit as long as he gets to hit something. Surviving is definitely a bonus though. For example, if Kempf can't get Gale Force ready, he can attack another enemy safely thanks to his own flash status. That leads into 10 more splash damage with a Savage Blow and Poison Strike. You can just whittle away enemies. If you can't get Gale Force, Dancers are another option. 30% DR can help get into Wings of Mercy range, and you could run Double Fury or push skills to help as well. Kempf is certainly an interesting unit, even though his general playstyle hasn't changed much. Discord is nice, but it's just extra stat debuffs for the team. Next up we have Ross, who is an X-Infantry unit demote who does have decent base attack and rather high HP. He got a new weapon called the Father's Son Axe. It has 10 might, inflicts -5 speed, and that is because this is a dual phase Brave Axe. For the refine, if Ross initiates or is near an ally, he inflicts -5 attack and defense on the foe, deals true damage on hit equal to 50% of his current HP at start of combat, and then restores 7 HP after combat. This is certainly a refine. Dual phase Brave Weapon is nice, -5 attack and defense is nice, extra true damage is nice, and then Ross heals. Extremely simple weapon, but not exactly the most inspiring. If you have a +10 Ross with full Dragon Flowers and this refine, he will hit 58 HP. 15% of that equates to 8 extra true damage, which is alright, but any damage Ross takes will lower his true damage amount. 7 HP regained is a whopping 1 extra damage back. For the most part, Ross is a very basic all or nothing Brave attacker. If he does not get the KO in 2 hits, it's not gonna end well. Attack Super Boon is pretty much a must. Despite being a dual phase Brave Axe, Ross does not exactly want to enemy phase tank. For one, losing HP loses damage. It's fine for the first encounter, but you're still gonna lose damage in the long run if you fight on low health. Second, 32 basic defense, 24 base res is not gonna be saved by a measly -5 attack debuff. Ross has high base HP, so sure, he might survive one attack, but then he must get the kill on the counter. -5 speed kinda kills any optimistic speed builds, unfortunately. A shame really, because the one skill I think Ross really likes to run actually does boost speed. Now, a major roadblock to the one-shot type builds is damage reduction, and just about every single defensive type unit has it in some way. As an infantry unit, Ross has 2 solutions. One is Special Spiral 4, the other is the very recent Physical No Follow. It cuts all % DR skills in half, and Ross hits twice. Unfortunately, this skill left with Ascended Fur, and who knows when it's coming back. With Physical No Follow though, I would just focus on pure all or nothing 2-shot KOing. Finish 4 offers a lot of damage, but we need a charged special. Hexblade is another good option with technically even higher damage potential. For C skills, Oath or Menaces are what I would take for your pure stat increases. Run any attack boost in Sacred Seal. Extremely basic old school Brave Weapon build, now with the ability to at least partially counter damage reduction skills. For other offensive options, you can try to brute force it with Seal Defense 4, Lulls, or the new Brash Assault 4. That would at least give Ross a follow-up with damage reduction. Surge can heal max % HP, but it can Ross get to a special when he needs it. Speaking of which, there isn't anything wrong with Time's Pulse or Heavy Blade, but using those skills potentially takes away more attack boosts. You also need to worry or deal with Guard. Now, if you did want to try enemy phasing with Ross, this encounter could work. Ross basically has to tank a hit with just his raw HP, then fire back with brave attacks. Physical No Follow again can be used since range units are starting to get gung-ho with damage reduction. You could definitely check some of them, but Ross will have no DR in his own kit, and you got a -5 attack debuff, and that is it for defense. You can support Ross with allies, but another downside to actually tanking hits is that his true damage lowers with his HP for the next fight. He will heal a little, but it's not a huge amount, and this is also anti-synergistic with Vantage. Vantage can work, but it's just messy, and again, I think you want to run some kind of anti-DR skill with this weapon. I just do not see Ross taking 2 hits from any decent attacker, so may as well go all in on offense. Overall, this is not a terrible refine, but it's extremely basic and is a little awkward with some damage scaling on current HP instead of max HP. Father Son's Axe should easily give Ross the most brave damage output over the other 3 brave axes, so that is good. Being dual phase is also good, but Ross isn't exactly surviving many hits. If there is one thing I am completely disappointed in, is that they did not give Ross his hatchet. That is literally like his thing, and instead they gave it to the last free armored dude. Moving on, we have Perceval, who's a Lance Cavalier, one of our retired 5 stars. Perceval is a decently fast unit with somewhat higher res for his class type. He is going to be focusing on speed though. His prized Lance does the same things, but it's now easier to use. It has 16 might, accelerates specials, and if unit initiates or the foe has more than 75% HP at the start of combat, grant +4 to all stats and inflict guard on the foe. Previously, this weapon only worked against full HP foes, no longer. It's a pretty simple with slang and guard. For the refine, if Perceval has more than 25% HP, he gets +4 to all stats, deals true damage equal to 50% of his speed, gains full no follow-up effects, and also gains no guard. Relatively easy to understand weapon, but these are some pretty good perks. We got slang plus no guard for consistent, faster specials. Perceval gets +8 to all stats, bonus true damage for building speed, and he can then use that speed thanks to no follow-up. Cavaliers can't get defense in the follow-up, so this is nice to stop enemies, plus offense in the follow-up isn't tied to player phase only. Last, Perceval is going to have himself Guard. That can protect against big special counterattacks. He essentially has Flow Guard, but better and on both phases. A lot of comparisons can be made to the Arcane Lumen Lance. Instead of low speed and defense, Perceval will have Guard and no Guard. I would say Prize Lance is fine for what it is. In terms of playstyles, Perceval has a lot more combative perks than say Kempf, and he has a lot of good effects that open up build freedom. If you want a faster Lance Cav, then this Refine is just fine for that. Full no follow-up is fantastic, and Perceval gains a bit of extra damage based on speed anyway. With Slaying and no Guard, you can quickly activate specials like Luna, and you could run Gale Force, albeit that depends on Heavy Blade proccing. Percy doesn't need any flow skills, and he has Guard already, so you can run any of the near trace variants you got. Throw in the classic attack and speed Catch or Clash with maybe a Menace skill, and you have a very easy to use build. If Perceval outspeeds and gets hit, he can proc Luna guaranteed on his follow-up. With Guard, you can hopefully not get hit by a big Slaying Bonfire. Now if you want to run Alarm in the C slot, that gives Conto 1 and lets Perceval experiment with some of the new beast skill options. He can gain damage reduction via Brash Assault 4. The follow-up is a bit redundant since he has offense in the follow-up, but reflected damage can punish defenders. Low speed and defense 4 can work even if it's not that different from the tier 3. Perceval already has low attack and speed if you want to use that. You could also just run Wind or Water Sweep to double while having safety. There's even the unusual Snag 4 debuffs. Now with consistent special procs, Perceval is a pretty great Surge Sparrow user. He doesn't have the best defenses, but a Luna proc can, on that second hit, can restore a 50% max HP. This can lead into possible mixed phase setups with smoke debuffs, but generally you want to get in, burst someone down, heal back up, and then retreat with Kanto. Then you can do it again next phase. Now, at the very least, Prize Lance does work on both phases. Things like no follow-up and Guard make Perceval a pretty decent brawler. Overall, not a bad refine. Prized Lance is quite similar to Arcane Lumen, but I would say having Guard and no Guard is pretty good. Special manipulation on both fronts is a good benefit, and as mentioned, you can't exactly get no Guard in a Cavalier. Perceval won't be the absolute fastest Lance Cav out there, but at least the guy does have some res to his name. Last up for this part is Gerik, a faster axe infantry unit. Not gonna lie, was not expecting much. Gerik is actually still the only unit with the Fire Sweep axe if you want it, but his new Desert Tiger axe has no Fire Sweep effect tied into it. This weapon is actually a rather good hybrid support weapon, and if you're familiar with Mythic Ashura, then Gerik seems to be a similar unit. Desert Tiger axe has 16 might, and at the start of turn 1, it grants -1 cooldown to Gerik and any allies with less HP than Gerik. This is Infantry Pulse, minus the infantry condition, and Gerik always get -1 cooldown no matter what. Now then, at start of turn, grant a +6 attack and speed field buff, the neutralized stat penalty status, and no panic status to Gerik and his allies with less HP. Last, if Gerik has more than 25% HP, he gets plus for all stats. This base effect is actually very cool and doesn't require any Divine Dew if you want to try it out. The Refine does not grant extra support power. Just from this though, we already have -1 cooldown to any unit type with less HP than Gerik. He already has Infantry Pulse, so you can provide -2 cooldown to all infantry allies. Keep in mind, this is a one-time deal. This is not times pulse like Asker. Now Gerik will also provide attack and speed buffs, a status to neutralize debuffs, and the panic status. Actually pretty great stuff. I always say neutralizing debuffs can be very clutch. It is worth noting though that Gerik's support works from anywhere on the map and affects all unit types. The trade-off being he must have the highest HP at the start of the turn. Like Ross, this means Gerik fighting and losing health can be a problem. You need to be careful having Gerik fight first because your team may suddenly lose their nice buffs. A healer can solve this issue as long as it's before the next player phase starts. Now, let's move on to the Refine. If Gerik is within 3 spaces of an ally, grant bonus stats, reduce the first hit by 30%, and Gerik gets no Guard. For the stat boost, this is equal to 4 plus the highest bonus on each stat between Gerik and his nearby allies. In other words, this is bonus doubler that also takes his team's field buffs into consideration. The Refine is pure combat power for Gerik himself, plus 8 total stats, bonus doubler, 30% DR, and no Guard. Honestly, this is a very unexpected and neat weapon. Any cooldown support is valuable in Fate, and a team-wide infinite range -1 cooldown can open up a ton of gameplay options. Even if it's a one-time deal, that can allow Gale Force strats or just lead into a nasty pre-charge AoE special. As for the other perks, no panic stops panic, duh, and nobody turns down free attack and speed buffs. Then you neutralize all stat penalties as well. Extremely nice, just do not run with Unity effects. Now for builds and playstyles, Gerik has a lot of options. You can build into extra support power or go for a bit more personal combat power. For their team, Gerik already has Infantry Pulse, which was stacked with Desert Tiger Axe. -2 cooldown to all infantry allies from anywhere is crazy. Add Lord Asker or other similar cooldown units, and suddenly multiple units on the field can have -3 cooldown on turn 1. Gerik can take this further with cooldown support in battle. He has room for Infantry Rush as a seal. That is going to be heavy blade for all nearby allies. If you want Infantry Breath, it will replace Infantry Pulse, but now it's a free-to-play option thanks to Kadean's Sword. For other support skills, Gerik also comes with Sudden Panic. That's fine to keep if you want. Other base skills can be Defensive Link to fill in full +6 buffing, or passive tier 3 dual chills. For the C slot, Gerik can supply his attacks and speed buffs with infantry no follow-up. Console control also works since Gerik may not want to be directly frontlining. If you're okay with just Desert Tiger Axe's base support effects, then Gerik can run full combat builds. You can substitute the Pulse effect as a one-time slang effect. For example, this allows Gerik with Times Pulse to charge Vital Astra. He gets extra damage reduction, and now Finish 4 is ready to go for both hits. As usual, Gerik wants no follow-up in some way. The seal is fine, but the tier 4 B skill partially pierces DR. And let's say you run this build with Vital Astra times Pulse, make it TP4. After the first fight, Gerik doesn't have slaying, so Vital Astra does not recharge instantly. Bit of a bummer. He does have no guard though, so if he doubles, Vital Astra will proc guaranteed then. Now let's say you run Special Spiral 4, but you don't want to run times Pulse since after that first activation, TP becomes a dead skill. Well, Gerik won't pre-charge Vital Astra, so no dodge, no extra finish 4 damage. You could solve this though by bringing cooldown support for Gerik himself. Again, Lord Asker and any other units that can supply -1 cooldown on top of Desert Tiger Axe can lead into Special Spiral as a loop. I will say that while Gerik generally wants to stay healthy so Desert Tiger Axe buffs his teammates, the weapon will actually always buff Gerik no matter what. Technically, if you just want Gerik to one-man army it, he can. He doesn't have the strongest combative perks, but if bonus doubler is active, you're going to get +20 attack and speed. With 30% DR and no guard, plus ignoring panic and debuffs, Gerik can do fine. If you want to gain +20 to all stats, you can run Demon Torment's Oath. Sadly, no tier 4 yet. Demon Torment's Menace can also work for this. With full buffs, bonus doubler as a seal can add another layer of stats. If you need healing, Surge plus no guard again is a good combo. Maybe add Heavy or Flashing Blade. Mystic Boost and Bulwark also have sustained perks. If you want to tank it out, Dodge 4 B skills are fine. Since Gerik wants to have the most HP on a team though, you may need more HP. Reminder, the recent Squad Assault Sacred Seals got buffed. The Squad Ace BS seal gives +5 HP with +3 attack and speed. That's perfect for Gerik. The Summer Banner is also bringing tier 4 boost A skills. Technically they are new tier 3 dual boost skills. +5 HP, +72 stats, and potentially guard as well. For Arena though, obviously the dual A skills also boost HP. Overall, Gerik has suddenly become a fun and unique support unit. He gains all of his own support perks and has a nice stat boost with bonus doubler, which leads to a serviceable combat unit as well. If you're a fan of cooldown based tactics, then Gerik is worth keeping an eye on. His other stat based effects are pretty good too. That'll be it for part 1 of the update 7.7 refines. Let me know what you think. Kempf and Gerik are the most unique units in terms of playstyles. Perceval is a pretty solid speedy cavalier. As for Ross, not sure how I feel about this refine. Don't mind the Brave Axe with a lot of damage, but it's basically just full damage or bust. I'll try it out regardless. I already have low attacking demons on him. Now next video, I will go over the refines for Duo Idun, Electronite Crom, and Mythic Bramimon. Links will be in the usual spots once that video is done. Thank you for watching. See you soon.